Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Expert to Authority show. My name is Simone Vincenzi, and I'm your host. And this is the show for coaches, speakers, and trainers who want to grow their businesses while making an impact in the world. And today I'm here with a great friend of mine where we're going to talk about finding God in everyday life. It's one of the most, I think, important topics that we can discuss. Now, she's a dear friend. We've been knowing each other, doing also business with each other for more than 7, 8 years now. So we go way back. And the best way I can describe her is like she's a shipbuilder for your soul. Because what she's has a unique ability, and that has been since I've known her, is really to find what is the one thing or what is the things that you can do that are really aligned for your path, but not only on a practical level, more so on a spiritual level. And what's in the way? What's preventing that path to unfold? And I think that if you believe that we are souls here on this planet, then this interview is definitely for you. So, Suze, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Simona. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Wow, let's talk about finding God in everyday life. Why is this
Yes.
topic important for you, and why you made it so that you're running a retreat, that you're supporting your clients with that? Why is this topic so crucial for you?
So for me, it's a big topic. It's the first thing I've ever did that actually has the word God in the title. Because for me, for years, God was something I did personally behind the scenes. Nobody needed to know about it. I did not grow up with religion. My family is Jewish, but that all got banned from the family because of the Second World War. So my great grandmother put her kids into Catholic boarding school, and all Jewish roots were erased. I didn't even know about that until I was 40. Um, my mom was, until she was 21 or 23 or something, a devout Christian, but then she completely abandoned all religion because of all kinds of Second World War trauma as well. I didn't know any of that. We never went to church, but I always had a completely lost feeling in life because of Second World War trauma of my parents. And I had these little incubators where I would feel a deep connection. And those were ships. I call myself a shipbuilder for your soul because my first university degree was shipbuilding. I worked in offshore. I am literally a shipbuilder. I worked as also as a welder in shipyards, but also as an engineer because ships were the place where I felt a deep connection with God. I never used that language. It's just what I felt there. And what I saw people do, and today I'm a trauma therapist and a theologian, but what I saw people do in shipbuilding was one-on-one, I would have immensely deep conversations with them about life, about who they were. But during everyday work, they would do their tasks and they would do them good. But the devotion and the passion and the coming to life of who you are and pouring your heart and soul into work, I rarely saw that. Now, I worked in innovation projects, and innovation doesn't work if you don't pour your soul into it because we don't get the best ideas if you're not fully present. So I started to look at, but why are we not using all of who we are in our day? It was just a big question for me. I was 25. I knew nothing about anything. I was traumatized. It was just over being suicidal. But I thought if I don't show up completely as who I am, then what is the point of life? For me, that was normal. For me, it was like, if I am not fully me, then I'd actually rather commit suicide. And for me, that was a real question back then. I'm not suicidal anymore. I haven't been for a long time. But for me, bringing that sense of coming home to who I am that I found at sea into everyday life is the only point of life. I thought that was just my problem until I started working with entrepreneurs. And I saw a lot of entrepreneurs looking at it from a place of, I need to make a lot of money. I need to get clients. I need to get this to work. I need to just push myself until I have a certain degree of success. Like, and then what? And they said, well, then I'll be free. And I thought, that's bullshit. Pardon my French. But I thought, what do you mean? You're free right now. If you can't find God without the bank account, and you can't find God without the success and the clients, then what are you sharing with the world? Because then you're just sharing a tool or a trick to make you feel successful. And then when you feel successful, then you might consider sharing yourself. And that's so, in my mind, that didn't add up. I believe that we are here on this planet just for one reason, and that is to figure out how immense we are, what a creation power, what a beauty we have inside ourselves, what manifestation powers, what creation powers, but also how beautiful life is, how much we can be in awe of all of it. And if we share from that place, we bring something else to our business. We bring something else to our clients. We bring a different energy. We might still bring the same program or the same product, but it will mean something else to the people we share with. And if we can't find God or that force, if we can't find that and share it through our work, then we're just hoping for a different bank account number. That's not going to change anything.
Yeah. That's gonna keep things as they are. I can definitely
Yes.
connect with this topic. That's why I wanted to have this interview on this. And when you told me about also your retreat, about finding God in your everyday life, I was like, okay, that's really, we need to have this conversation, because uh, I came from a background actually where I was incredibly Catholic. So I was
Yeah.
going to church. My mom and my family being Italian, is a part of
Yeah.
our culture. And I used to teach catechism to kids until the age of
Oh,
18.
wow.
And
Yeah.
then I completely detached myself from Christianity. I completely detached myself from God. I decided to stop that connection. But also, what's interesting is that even though I was there for my friends, I was never really there for God, even if I was like going to church and so on. Like, it was more like, this is my friends group. This is where I find
Yes.
joy. But it definitely shaped the way I am. It shaped my values. It shaped who I am. And the more I was growing up, then when I felt this void, is like, this doesn't matter how many, in this case, I was working in a restaurant, doesn't matter how many restaurants I work with, doesn't matter how many businesses I start, it doesn't matter how many clients I get, that part is still not fulfilled. And so a big part of my journey has also been reconnecting with who is God, what is God for me,
Yeah.
what is God within religion, outside religion. So I don't not practice Catholicism anymore, but
No.
have a very deep personal connection with God. And it kind of gives me, not kind of like, it really gives me, when we're talking about freedom, right? Freedom is
Yes.
what as entrepreneurs, we are looking for. When I'm in that space, when I'm connected, I'm free. Like that,
Exactly.
that's the highest level of freedom. Is not
Absolutely.
when I'm spending 500 or 1,000 in a fancy restaurant. That's
That's not freedom.
that's not freedom. It's nice. It's like, okay, oh, this is a great dinner, but it's not the freedom that I think we all long for, right? So the question I have for you is that, why do you think uh, people, even though they are searching for that longing, even if they're searching for that connection, because I'm assuming that if someone is listening or watching this, they have an interest in God, whatever God is
If
for
you're still
them.
listening, you are. Yes.
Right, exactly. So at this point, otherwise, I would have lost you already.
Yeah.
So in that case, why do you think, even if people are seekers or they're looking for that connection, then they cannot experience it, or they cannot find it?
So let me see. So basically, if we look at, is it is it a good idea to talk about how trauma is related to this?
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
it
I
is,
mean,
right? Yeah,
it's
maybe it
your
is.
idea. It's your
All
idea.
right.
So.
So So just a little bit of back to our origin, right? What is God even? What is it in our life? Who are we? If we look at how we are made, and all of us, I assume, has had the biology lesson, right? A sperm and an egg come together, becomes a human. But that little embryo starts with all identical cells, little ball of all identical cells. Now, at a certain point, those cells start to specialize. And, and that's a really interesting thing because a lot of us assume that's DNA driven, but it can't be because all these cells still have the same DNA. They're completely identical. So why does one become an eye and the other a heart and the other a toenail? It makes no sense, right? Until and one of my teachers was an embryologist or is an embryologist, and he's devoted his life to what actually happens there. And he looked at that little ball of cells. And now the interesting thing is, the first thing that happens is that that ball of cells starts to move into a kind of a bean shape. That is after the movement, there is a specialization of cells. Then it starts to unfold, further specialization, and it starts to consistently move. And after every movement, there is specialization. You could almost say the movement creates the embryo. Now, what causes the movement? And to me, the only answer to that is God. Now, I don't mean some man in the sky with a beard. It's not a religious kind of, not the Catholic Church who creates the embryos, right? There is a huge source, a force, a God force that creates a movement that we will never understand because the minute we understand it, we have to go back into a thing that we can even understand, and we can't understand what initiates that first movement. That is a thread of divine movement that is moving us into being. Now, the interesting thing is, after we're born, that's not finished. We're not finished. Our body isn't finished. We need to create nerve system. We need to create a brain. We need to create all these different aspects to make us into some kind of form of responsible human. In the first years, what happens is that our nervous system starts to develop, and it starts to create um, centers that will allow us to deal with big emotions, to deal with life, to give an answer to whatever it is that we are falling into, right? Ideally, which doesn't exist, but ideally, we would be surrounded with grown-ups who have really good functioning nervous centers and good functioning brain centers who would be able to regenerate themselves all the time. And then our nervous system would have copied theirs. And then we could have followed that God force movement. And our nervous system would have been built to deal with fear, to deal with anger, to deal with grief, to deal with love, to deal with care. We need really secure attachment in order to build these centers. Now, if the people around us don't have that, then what the baby does is it starts to tune into those people because it's better to survive than to follow God. So the baby starts to take care of its own survival over its own purpose. So the baby then starts to detach from that God force and starts to look around at what is okay here. How am I safest? And that means safest, meaning mom won't kick me out in the street before I'm ready. That is where we start developing a tuning into the rest of the world, tuning into what other people find acceptable behavior, what things we should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And we start to look at external things over internal things. And it's very easy to say, oh, you know what? Don't need acknowledgement so much. Stop looking for approval. But if your entire system is being wired for your survival to look at that, then we've built a survival thread and we need other people. We need to belong to a group. We doesn't matter how much AI we invent, we still need human beings and we need connection. So that survival thread becomes more important than the divine thread that should be driving us. Now, What we need to do in life, and I think this is the purpose of life, is to use that survival thread to find our way back to God, to find our way back to that divine thread that could be driving us. That means that we need to stop looking at our bank account, stop looking at success, and start looking at that internal driving force. Now, why is that so hard? Because our entire brain and our entire nervous system have been wired the wrong way. Meaning that we're constantly prioritizing, am I alive over am I thriving?
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making total sense. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, you're making sense. Let's start with this.
So I don't care if anybody wants to go to any church or any religion. It's not about that. It's about trusting your true self, trusting who you were meant to be. Now, a lot of coaches will tell you, yeah, just peel off layers of onions. And of course, there's a lot of layers of onions to be peeled off, maybe. But if we haven't practiced using our voice, then it's the equivalent of standing in the middle of the market space place in central London without clothes on. You're not going to do that. You're not going to go to speaker's corner, take all your clothes off, and give a speech unless you're on drugs. Well, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it without drugs. Maybe some people would. But we won't be that vulnerable
Yeah.
because we're not that certain that we're meant to be here. So we need to build a different foundation. Now, this type of trauma isn't about healing our inner child, it's about recreating the foundation that never was created. So it's about finding God in the sense of, well, for instance, you know where I live, right? I live in a really beautiful place. I live in paradise. But if I look at my bank account, or if I look at, um, let's say I wanted 30 people in a seminar and there's 10 people enrolled, it's really easy to look at, oh, but there are only 10 people, or, oh, my bank account's not saying the number I want. Oh my God. We're completely in the sense of, why is it not working? Why is it not working? Why is it not working? Instead of looking at, holy mother of God, look where I am right now. I am in paradise. How can I share this? Who could I invite here? We are living in a world that is constantly supporting the survival thread because there's wars out there. There are awful politicians. Whatever side you're on, there's always going to be an awful side. There's climate crisis. There's things being disrupted left or right. We had COVID. We have conspiracy theories, or maybe you believe them to be absolutely true. I don't care what you believe, but we live in a highly disruptive world that is constantly feeding into, ooh, I don't have time to look at God. I need to be afraid.
Hmm.
Wherever we look, it is pretty hard to look at the tree and look at, wow, there is an abundance on this planet. I landed on the best place in the entire universe. What can I share? Now, some people will be really good at connecting with that, but they won't be good at sharing that, what they find in that connection with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So either we're good at that connection and feeling lonely, or we're not so good at connection because we're constantly afraid and constantly feeling a lack of abundance there. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And no, it reminds me um, about something that I didn't understand until recently about my mom, for example. My mom, like we had this conversation, like she, I swear to God, like that woman prays every single waking hour of the day. Like there is things about it I know about my mom and my grandma coming from her as well,
Yeah.
is they pray. My mom like will pray 5 hours, 6 hours a day. Like she's there. I'm talking to her. She's saying a prayer. Is part of her. And I think I thought she was a bit crazy. I'm like, okay, like what is this bunch of like okay, there's a limit. What I didn't realize is that that's how she experienced her peace. And so she had to go through what we had to go through as a family. She has to go through what she's going through in life and everything, and still being peaceful is because of that. And she found her
Yes.
way to see God in everyday lives.
I
For
love
her, it's through
that.
prayer. And
Yeah,
and everyone finds it in a different way. And so when I realized that, I was like, that's why you do it, because that's you feel home. That's what makes you see the beauty in the world. That's what makes you appreciate everything. That's what makes you feel grateful. Doesn't matter what's happening in your life or what has happened in your life or the
exactly.
shit that you're going on right now.
Yes,
And I think that this is what we are talking about. Everyone will have a different
absolutely.
way to experience it.
And I love what you say. So I pray a lot, but nobody knows that. Well, my family does. But my life is a prayer. Our life should be a testimony to that God force, to who we could be, to who do you want to be? Who are you called to be? And I will hear a lot of coaches, I work a lot with coaches who will say, yeah, yeah, but it's easy for me to connect with that when I'm in a session with a client. Well, that's great. But who are you being in the rest of your life? Is your life a testimony to that God force? Because exactly what you say, right? Can we be in that place where we are honoring the fact that we're here, where we're honoring nature? Can we walk in the forest? Very simple example, not just admiring the place where we are, but knowing that the place where we are is admiring us being there at the same time.
Mm.
Can we be such a part of creation that we are so certain that we're meant to be here that we will share of ourselves? Now, if you are coming from that place in your life, your sessions are going to change because then it's not just you bringing something to somebody else and that transferring into a good bank account.
Yeah.
That's very transactional. You will be such an embodied version of what it is that happens in a session that people will just want you because you make them feel something, whether they work with you or not. Can you relate to that in any way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
100%. The final question I have for you before we wrap up is how do we get there? Because you have a different spectrum, right? There is people that can experience that are fully connected
yeah,
or most of the time. You have people that they can experience this connection on and off, and you have people that can be fully disconnected. They feel that they want
yes.
it, but they've not experienced it for a long, long, long time. They don't even know what it feels like. So you have all this spectrum. How do we get to the point where, I'm not saying perfection because we're all human being, right? So
Yeah.
it's not about, oh, every single day of my life I'm gonna be seeing this, but how can I experience this most of the time?
So I would say by devoting your life from a place of wherever you notice there are survival patterns going on, finding your way back. A lot of people will say, I need to get rid of my survival patterns. You don't need to get rid of them. You need to learn to use them as um, if you're in a survival pattern, you just found a barrier around your own heart. Now, if you can read those survival patterns as, this is where the wall around my heart is, now you can use it to open it again. All of life is a sign that you're on the right path, but it might be a sign that you found a wall, and it might be a sign of proof that the wall is already open somewhere. So, what I would do is the first thing is create space, create a lot of space. I spend 4 to 6 hours a day just doing this, just praying, journaling, being who I want to be, being in awe of life, painting, doing things for me so that my life is valuable to me and to whatever it is. A lot of people will talk about, I need to leave a legacy, but any legacy will be forgotten in 3,000 years. Nobody will know 3,000 years from here on who Martin Luther King was. Well, maybe that guy will be remembered, but right, all of
Yeah, it
us will.
takes yeah, there are some people that we might know, but the majority, even the people that had a big legacy, unless they made some fundamental changes in history, which we can count them, our
Yeah.
fingertips. So,
And the rest is going to be erased, and that's okay. But we need to be so humble that we experience our own life to the fullest. Now, the more we can create space for that without conditions, unconditionally, right? If I eat a sandwich in the forest and I am with you or with some other friend, it's divine right there. Just being together. And the more we can allow ourselves to just be with all of it, whether that's creating good emotions or bad emotions, the fact that we can feel is divine. The fact that we are here is divine. The more we can create space for that, the easier it is. Now, the world's not making it easier because we have iPhones and watches and cities and distractions and bank accounts and homes to take care of and businesses to build and teams to lead. But we need to create space. So that is one of the reasons why I created this retreat, to have a place where we camp in the orchard. There's fire, there's no electricity, no Wi-Fi, really back to you and God, whatever God is to you, to find that again and to find how you can connect with that when you're preparing a meal, how you can connect with that when you're doing the dishes, when you're making bread, when we're doing the things that we need to do in the camp that we set up here. And then in the evening, we'll do deep trauma work around that survival thread where that's necessary, to see how you can find that way back to reconnecting, not just here on the premise, because here on the premise, it's easy, but how can you do that in London? Now, does that make sense?
it makes sense, and that's where the practice come into place, right?
Yes.
Where you can see what it feels like, what is like, and how can you bring it into your everyday life? Because no,
Yeah.
we can. It's not that we can't, like we can, but not many people, they may have the choice, or they don't want to, even if they have the choice, to then just seclude themselves and then say, okay, no, because also I think, like I'll find my train of thoughts here. The there is a, a a side of people that will go into spirituality to try to escape from the world.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that's like using spirituality as a drug, like as a alcohol or as
Yeah.
it's like you're
Yeah.
using it to find yourself outside the world
Yes.
because that's not the place where you want to be, but actually we are here, like we're living
Yeah.
here. So how
Exactly.
do we experience it and bring it into the everyday life in
Yeah.
the businesses that we want to run, in the project
Yeah.
to run, the sports that the activities, in the families that we have. And that I think is the
Exactly.
dynamic. So
I love what you said about your mom. It's not how can we create a prayer practice or meditation practice. I mean, if I just do 4 to 6 hours meditation practice and seclude that from life, I'm not going to get anywhere. How can your life be a prayer? When you're having a phone call, how can that phone call be a prayer? Not meaning that you're praying on the call together. That's an entirely different thing. But
yeah,
how can you keep that connection?
I love it. So let's talk about the retreat. And
Yes.
first of all, when it's happening, and if people cannot make the next one, how can they get in touch with you? But let's start with that because it's gonna be life
Yes.
changing for the right people that are gonna be there.
It is. It's 18 to 22nd of July, and it is about an hour east of Amsterdam. Um, so in the 18th in the morning, we'll set up camp. It's camping in my orchard. If you don't have a tent, that's no problem. You can rent one with me, and we'll make sure you have a good mattress and a good night's sleep. And there's showers and everything here on the premise. It's not a back to bare minimum kind of retreat, but it is back to nature kind of retreat. And on the 22nd, after lunch, we'll wrap up the camp and we'll be here together in a small group, preparing meals, setting up camp. The place where I live is 500 meters, which is about 1,600 feet from the street, and that is a very quiet street. in the middle of nature, in the middle of the forest. Um, and there will be a lot of solitude, a lot of silence during the retreat, and a lot of contemplation from a place of how can I find that way back? What does this mean? It's not just you're on your own nature week. It's also deeply guided from, but not the entire day filled with exercises. Um, there will be art, there will be music, but there's also going to be deep silence to really find how can I refine that connection. If you can't make it this year, we are debating to create another set of dates in August. If they send me an email, I'm happy to share those.
All right. And what are the dates again? Say it again.
18 to 22nd.
18th to then 22nd of July. I gotta say
Yes.
that I've been knowing you for many years. I know your family. You have a beautiful family. There is one thing that I got because I was recently at your place. You hosted me a few weeks ago, and I mean your hospitality is always incredible, and the love that you can feel in that place, like you can feel it, and I think that's testament of you and Yako and your kids, which are not kids anymore, but in
They're
terms of
all going to be there.
yeah, exactly. But just seeing how actually like the beautiful family that you have and how you interact with each other and the hospitality that you gave, that was very precious for me. And so what I can say from first-hand experience is like, if you're going to these kind of experiences, you want to go with someone that is going to take care of you, and you want to go someone that is a trusted place. And
Yes.
I can say that that's what I've known you from, like from day one. That's how you are. Like you don't take people that are coming in the journeys with you for granted. You're really present. You're there for them, for their transformation, for their breakthrough. And that's a safe space where you can explore another aspect of your life, or maybe an aspect of your life that you knew before that you forgot, or
Yes.
another aspect of your life that you maybe want to rediscover because you never experienced it and you want
Yes.
to experience what it feels like and actually give yourself the space, because this is what the work that you said is like, you need to create space for to see God in everyday life. It doesn't happen with
Yes.
business. No, it doesn't happen with
It
business.
doesn't happen. No, we need to pour that into our business.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Suze, thank you. Thank you very much. So if people want to reach out to you, first of all, what's your email? And by the way, I'll put them in the show notes so you can contact her directly. There is also going to be the brochure attached so you can see all the
Yes.
details about the retreat. There is going to be Sue's website, but let's spell them out. So what's your website and what's your email?
So my website is suzemaclainepont.com to make it easy for people. And my email is support@suzemaclainepont.com.
Uh,
Simona will put that in the chat because it's easy to make an error in typing that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say like just copy and paste it. It's gonna be in the show notes,
That's a lot easier.
right?
Yes.
And then you can find there. You can follow her work. Is absolutely brilliant at what she does, and so make sure you get this experience. If you have any question also for me to share the experience that I have, like knowing Suze, then feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to give you my opinion as well. And if even if you feel like if you're unsure, reach out to Suze anyway. Say, hey,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
thinking
happy to
about
have a
it,
call.
but just reach out to Suze. She's there. Like she's one of the friendliest human
Yes.
being on the planet. So have a chat with her.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. Simona, thank you so much.
All right, that's my pleasure. That was an incredible conversation. I can't wait to publish it. And for everyone that has been watching or listening, comment below. Let us know what were your takeaways, what were your aha moments. That's why we do these interviews. That's why we do this, because, of course, I enjoy having this conversation, but we publish these conversations for you so that you can have
Yes.
your own breakthrough, so you can have your own growth. So let us know. Make sure you subscribe and give us a good review. With that,
Yes.
I'll see you next time, and remember that together we grow exponentially. Ciao.